Hello, this is Linda Vettrus-Nichols, and have I got an amazing woman to introduce to you, Tetyana Azarova. Did I say it right?
Beautiful.
Ooh, well, there we go. So today we're going to be talking about love is the medicine. That's an interesting term, love being medicine. So first of all, you have an amazing story of transformation, and I would love to hear your story, and then we'll get into the title of your slide.
Okay, and I feel like everyone's transformational story is amazing. That's what I'm learning when I'm talking to people and hearing their stories. So
Right?
my feels like amazing in certain ways. Um, if you look at life as an adventure, as a learning opportunity,
Right?
as a opening for discovery,
Mm-hmm.
enjoyment. So this transformation that happened with me quite recently, that's what it kind of felt like. Nothing I could have predicted,
Right?
nothing I could have planned for,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't finish yet. I'm still in the process. Also, it is interesting in a way that it relates to stories of many people
Mm-hmm.
that I read in the literature, that I heard interviewing them, or just sharing stories in a friendly conversation. So my story looked like many stories. A person who worked in a corporate environment, so that was my past background in
Right?
corporate finance. And by that time, I already achieved certain recognition and had great education, and I got my MBA and followed a typical successful career path, working as finance manager. So the next steps would be raising to the level of CFO potentially, or something like that.
Right?
However, at some point, I found myself, like many of us, uh, in an environment very stressful, challenged with um, feeling overwhelmed, drained of energy,
Right?
on the edge of burnout, feeling that the place is lacking kind of meaningful connection, and raising questions. So why am I here? What am I doing? Then the question of what is my purpose to be here, and what is my purpose in life started appearing on the background. And I also realized at that point that I was dealing with numbers as a finance person. And it felt like the whole space, that corporate space, was more like number driven, that people were viewed as not as live human beings, but more as asset, labor, as a number.
Right?
And I didn't feel right. It didn't feel right to me. And I also became very curious about that human side, that human magic that actually is making the whole organization, or whatever is a product of organization in the end, that
Right?
people want to buy. I realized that this is not just technology and equipment and assets. This is human magic behind that.
Ooh, I love that term. Human magic is good.
Yeah, so I felt like that was kind of like a magic or something. I also had the desire to learn. Learning was one of my values, like long standing personal values. And I decided to pursue a PhD education. And
Oh,
while in the PhD program, I was very curious, again, about human development and organizational development, and I allowed it to naturally unfold. What is this that my inner urge, something inside me, was calling for, because I could not yet put it in words, articulate, I did not, at that time, I did not have a spiritual language or spiritual orientation or anything like that. And it's so interesting that this, what started as a PhD journey, actually turned into a personal transformational journey, and the inquiry into my spiritual side, my side of the human being. What is this being part of me?
Mm-hmm.
And it was unplanned, but just everything that I was doing, reading, experiences that I had while I was there, meeting new people, visiting new places, and it kind of started, in the end, it started to converge into something that looked more like a deeper spiritual inquiry. And on top of that, while in this deeply transformative journey, I also had deep spiritual experience when I visited Peru in 2017, and I decided to explore very well-known sacred plants, medical plants of Amazon, which is called Ayahuasca. So I decided to have that experience, which was very deep and profound, and it catalyzed my spiritual transformation and gave me additional perspective, which I could not have received by just reading books. Or sometimes this perspective is received through very long-term spiritual practice, which I didn't have at the time, and I did not understand the value of it. I just had this inner calling, inner urge.
Right.
So this was quite amazing, and it happened to be very aligned with my deeper inquiry, and it catalyzed my understanding and the dissertation that I wrote after that, where I decided to focus on human journeys of personal struggle and challenge and inspiration, and to research what is that in this phenomenon of inspiration that transforms the person from drained of energy and lifeless and depressed into this energized butterfly, sparking with energy, creativity, enjoying life. So that was my kind of deeper desire, curiosity to find out what is this inspiration, what is magical about inspiration. And I felt like my own transformation was helping me to understand this topic deeper, and was an illustration or something that helped me to kind of see a bigger pattern in the end.
Yeah, and really tapped you into joy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
And your background, like where you were born, is Ukrainian, or is that right?
Yes, we can call it Ukrainian. So I was born in that entity that was once called USSR, the communist environment, a big country, which then split into independent countries, and where I lived, this was Ukraine.
Okay.
So
yeah,
we can call it Ukraine, though.
Oh, all right. and you, so in Peru, you stepped into this place of understanding of joy, right?
Yes. So in Peru, that kind of depth and profound shift that I experienced, it was experiential knowing that I received in the several ceremonies that I attended there. The sense of joy, a very profound joy, deep joy, in one of those ceremonies, the state that people often call like a blissful joy and laughter, where I felt, and in that moment, the understanding or knowing was given to me that this is what laughing Buddha state is. And I I don't want to claim that I became Buddha or anything like that, but that joy was so liberating, so overwhelming, and so connecting me with like a deeper meaning of life. That this is our core experience as human being, when we are not conditioned by external environment, culture, society, limiting beliefs. So underneath of all that, if we just for a moment forget about that all, we can just experience the joy of life, joy of connection, and joy of this beauty around us. And that's what I experienced, because in that moment I had like almost like the memory of conditioning or anything that was expected of me or required of me or any anxieties. It was just gone. It disappeared. And I felt so liberating, and I felt joyful, just
I felt joyful
uncontrollably. It was funny. There was no mind control, like you supposed to, you should not, this is not natural, this like this blah 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 parrot in our heads, and I felt like a child. So in that state I felt like I was 6 or 8 years old, playing on the playground and experiencing joy and beauty of it, and really like feeling like this is it, this is what life is about.
Yeah, I love it. And so the title of your slide, Love is the Medicine, what is that all about then? That brings in like the joy piece, and what's your thoughts there?
And love is the medicine. It's another learning that I received across several ceremonies. While I was in Peru, but the biggest one was a ceremony was solely dedicated to love, and it's not like I directed it to be. It happened that way. I had an intention to reconnect with a sense of love. And I didn't know what it's going to look like or how it will unfold. And in that specific ceremony, I moved into a state that, like, later on, when I was reflecting on it, I realized that I read about this state in different spiritual literature, in mystical experiences of some famous spiritual people, describing this unconditional, overwhelming state of love, where there's nothing but love, and it's just, you feel connected with everything. So I was moved into the state, and when I was in the state, it was unmistakable. It was like this energy of love, not love because, not love for specific person or specific event or something. Not there was no,
like a heart opening kind of love. Acceptance of all. And
absolutely. Absolutely, to the point that I felt this connection with like insects and animals, with everything that was there in Amazon, like, and I could hear this strange sounds, and I saw the strange beetles around, and I felt nothing but love, like cockroaches. The most disgusting thing I could imagine before, but at that moment I felt love. It's difficult to describe right now for me, you know. I'm not in that state. When I realized, and I was so moved, and I realized, wow, this is so profound, this is so deep, and we have this inside, because this was not like a magic potion, even though ayahuasca is considered to a degree, but it unlocked the state in me in that moment, and it's not like ayahuasca does it for every person. So this was a message that I had to receive, and I received it, and this was state that I was supposed to experience and to learn from it, just to realize that we all have this key. It's like this key that we can turn and remove this conditioning from ourselves. And underneath is pure love and joy. And it becomes so liberating. And while I was in that state, I also experienced what people describe as Kundalini energy flow,
Oh yeah.
which removed all the blocks in my whatever chakra
Chakras.
alignment. And at that moment, it's funny, I was not into spiritual discussion. I did not practice Kundalini yoga or anything like that.
Right.
However, later on, when I read the literature to understand what was happening with me, I realized this was a Kundalini energy. And it opened my heart chakra to a degree that I'm still connected, I'm still open, though
nice.
It's not 100%. However, I can get into that state periodically, and it's beautiful reminder that the power is still there. All holds power. Yeah,
it is. It's really cool. I call it like walking at the level of your soul, because we can float around outside of our body, and you know, that's our divinity, right? Our soul. And when we get it into that body, because we're not a human, right? We're a soul embodied in a human. Well, a lot of times we don't even bother with the embodiment part. When you get down into that second chakra between that belly button and pubic bone, that is when we really step into our power. And a lot of times women with, you know, like sexual trauma or whatever, birth trauma, they really have an issue about, you know, even just that area of their body. And sometimes there's that, you know, extra tummy flab or whatever. So I find it really interesting and helpful to kind of look at it that way, and then get people down into that second chakra so that they're fully embodied, they're in their power. You hear on LinkedIn or whatever, my soul is tired, or your soul is tired. It's like, no. The soul's your divinity. It never gets tired, right? So it's always interesting. So let's scoot to your next slide. All right, so the concept of love. Get in touch with the concept of love, right? So tell us a little bit more about like getting in touch now that you've had that kind of opening up experience. Have you figured out a way to easily step back into it when you feel like you're not there? How do you get in touch with love or joy right now?
It is not that easy because I am in the environment with all the conditioning, and this conditioning is quite a heavy burden. It's not like I can so easily disconnect from it and not be attached. There are certain deeper roots that remind me of it. So if I want to reconnect with that sense of love, I often have to do something to kind of center myself, focus on that feeling, to kind of have intention to disconnect from the conditioning and all other shoots and expectations and things like that. What helps me is that after that experience in Peru, I became more connected with my body and sensations and feeling energy flow. So now I recognize more my energy flow, and when I feel aligned, when I feel in a state of well-being, and when I feel that heart expansion, and when I don't. So when I'm not connected, I know, okay, I'm not yet connected. That I need to focus and center and do something about this. Look for my normal triggers of inspiration that can help me to propel me in that state. However, this heart connection became easier now, and I can detect it by expanding vibration in my chest area, like heart area. I can physically feel sensation of expansion, and sometimes my body even start kind of like moving a little bit, like vibrating. So when people talk about like spiritual experiences, energy, vibration, and Some people cannot relate to it, and I understand them because I could not relate to them 3-4 years ago.
Right.
But now I totally get it. I know what it is because I can experience that. I experience that periodically.
Okay.
And it may not be as deep of experience that I had in that ceremony in Peru. However, I sometimes get quite close to it, and it's a powerful reminder that this magic is still with you.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of practice.
Yeah, I love it. And
then,
go
yes,
ahead.
and if I'm connected with other people who are in that energy state or on that energy level, it's amplified state. That's why I enjoy conversations with you and people like you and me who are like-minded, who understand the spiritual expansion and power of love and power of heart and soul, when all of them are aligned, heart, soul, mind.
Yeah, I love it. And so you get in touch with, like you said, like even your body, and then you get in touch with the feeling, and then working with the feeling too, right? And I love how you know when you're not in the state that you're choosing to be in, and you can shift now. And I think that really goes back to whether somebody's in their body or not. So I love it. Thank you.
Wow.
Oops. All right. So inner power, right? Your inner power. Well, how do you see your inner power?
So grounding knowledge about this still comes from that Peru experience.
Okay.
And I can say that before, it was more of an intuition in me that there is inner power, there is something deeper, there is something more. So when I was in the situations of struggle and challenge and the circumstances were not good, like even when I lived in communist environment, in like relative poverty and lack of many necessities, there was still a sense that there is more to life and more to me as a human being. There is some kind of potential. And I felt like I will be able to find out what it is at some point. So I had this trust that at some point I'll discover, like I will find it. When I was having the deep experiences, transformational experiences in Peru, when I unlocked the state of joy, blissful joy, and then I unlocked the state of this boundless love, I realized that this was beyond something that I could imagine.
Okay.
So even that was already a big shift to realize that there is something so powerful inside of us that we have no clue. No matter if you have MBA, if you have PhD or anything like that, you may still be disconnected from this and only be conditioned by certain theories and rely on certain limited experiences when so that was first of all, so that was something that I realized no matter how much I study, there is still more inside that I may have no clue unless I experience that.
Ooh, I love that. You know, isn't that true? It's like go into action. Like we have all these fears about taking that next step, even towards entrepreneurship, and yet it's like that's when you're gonna get the answers of what even the next thing to do will be. It's experimenting, right? Just experiment. I love it.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's about connecting with your body, it's about connecting with your inner power, and it's about connecting with others and realizing we are all connected, including with nature, you know, bugs, cockroaches, right? Just tapping into who we really are, that authentic energy of an embodied soul, if you will,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then vibrating so that others can find us and connect with us. I love that. And then expanding the heart is like, heart expansion is huge. The heart is our human. So when we make our decisions with our heart, we can feel more connected to others. And I have a girlfriend who was in a car accident, and through that process, that was her awakening, her heart just expanded like in a very huge way to feeling more connected to others, to, I mean, your life passes right past your eyeballs, you know, when you're in a car accident, you think, okay, this is it, right? So yeah, it's just interesting, some of the stories that people have about like that heart expansion. And then find and share the joy. So sum all that up for us. Find and share the joy. How do you feel you're doing that?
Share. I want to focus on the word share. And
Yeah.
this was very important lesson for me. And I remember I had a book, and there was something in that book, like a quote that before enlightenment, chopped woods carry water. After enlightenment, chopped woods carry water. As if a reminder that even after enlightenment, your life here on Earth continues.
Yeah.
There will be a lot of mundane and ordinary tasks. You still remain human. And this was connected to that learning that I received. So while I was in this blissful state of blissful joy, and this was not a moment or a second, it was long experience, it was an hour, maybe two, and I was there, I experienced that in full. I was in this spiritual conversation, like receiving some insights, almost like
not a download
communication. Yes,
right.
And I experienced the power of it, and at the same time I was aware that there are people in that room where we had the ceremony, and most of those people were in different states. They were going through quite not normal but quite expected influence on ayahuasca that manifests through purging and cleansing, through vomiting and some difficult emotions release. And I could hear all those difficult emotions, and I could feel that pain that they were going through, while I was all in this joy, and I was liberated, and I was ecstatic, and I almost received enlightenment in the moment. And I realized that, okay, this is beautiful, but what next? Like, it cannot be just for one person. Like, I cannot be truly joyful and happy if like everyone else is like suffering or having problem or going through this difficult experience. And I realized the need in the moment, the need to share. Like, there was no doubt, like all my desire in the moment was not just to have this joy to myself, but to share with others.
Nice.
And I started this conversation with whatever spirit was coming through, and I was asking, so how can I share? Can I share this with others? Like, everyone should experience this. This is so incredible. This is just ecstatic, liberating. We all should celebrate, you know,
right?
reconnect and celebrate. And the message I received in the moment that, first of all, that we all have this potential. This is deep inside of each of us.
Right.
And another message was that let everyone go through their own journey and experience what they need to experience. So they needed to receive their learning, even through difficult experiences.
Right.
So that was another message. However, my personal message was that you cannot be happy and joyful by yourself while others suffering. So there is something there that compelled me to now work almost like as an educator and share this experience to empower others to reconnect with that inner knowing, with that beautiful, beautiful treasures that we have, with that joy and love, and start living our life from that state of joy and love.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. And then life, right? Chop wood and carry water, right? You still have a life to live here, right? You can just live it in a different state, which is the beauty of the message, and takes us back to love as the medicine. So we can, take all that spiritual learning, if you will, and apply it here to the natural or the mundane even, and bring life to life. Yeah. So yeah, and the way it is, right? So it is the way it is right now. I mean, you've got 2 teenage daughters and 2 kitty cats that you're taking care of, and like, what am I going to do with my life, right? You're just kind of at your crossroads. And so I love people's stories, and I love a story like this because you're in the thick of it. It's not like you've come through all of it, you know, not that we all ever do come through all of it, right? So yeah. So tell us a little bit about, do you have an example of, hey, this is the way it is, or the first time you kind of said that to yourself or decided that?
So this is still my current learning. I cannot say that I have some conclusions or like deep messages. This is only way how it should be.
Right.
I feel like there probably won't be anything like how it should be. That's a deep experience for everyone, and I believe it's connected with our soul journey now, as I started diving more into spiritual literature to understand my own spiritual experience.
Right.
And when I connected with the concept of soul journey, it makes more sense. And it also makes more sense because when I was exploring for my dissertation the dynamic of human struggles and inspiration, we found that inspiration is not an accident or a one-time beautiful experience, that inspiration was more like a guiding, like navigation system for a human being to go about their spiritual journey and really not to fall apart during difficult circumstances, but have something as a guidance to help that person rise and still go and still advance and still learn and still follow that inner call of the soul. So the beauty of life can possibly be seen only through this bigger perspective, because when you are in the moment of deep struggle and pain, it's so difficult to really feel the beauty of life. And knowing that we are in this system, world, cultures, materialistic culture, that is not ideal, that is very dominating, controlling, that sometimes feels like a prison or like a slavery. And there is still a lot of injustice. There is still a lot of places where war and poverty and starvation. And these were my struggles when I came from Peru and I got back into this environment, all these problems of our system, and I started questioning life, and I was like, why it is so ridiculous? Why do we have this experience? Why there is so much suffering? And also because my I think heart chakra was open to the extent that I was so easily able to connect with that deep feeling of pain for others. I almost like started taking it into myself, and I started feeling that life is really not joyful, and that maybe it's meaningless to a degree or something like that. I started questioning that.
Yeah, sure.
Until at one point it came to me that it's not life that I'm questioning. I'm questioning the system. The system is,
Sure.
and it was like this enlightenment, not enlightenment, that life is beautiful. It's just the stupid systems that we imposed on life.
Right.
And made ourselves to adjust to the system and feel like it's normal. Like I remember someone said, there was a quote that there is nothing prudent or nothing beautiful in adjusting yourself to a sick system and call it normal.
Right.
So this is my knowing now, that system is imperfect and sometimes deeply, deeply bad.
Yeah. And humans are perfectly imperfect.
and humans often are blindly following the system rules and most of the society.
Yeah.
That's why now I'm kind of more empowered to feel my educator role, to at least to some extent, to some degree, help others to realize the same. This is not life. Don't blame life. Don't feel like life is not worth living.
Yeah.
Don't feel like your life is meaningless.
Yeah, right?
Life is beautiful, can be beautiful, and the system is not. Then the question is, what can we do about the system?
Yeah, and
can we connect all together and start doing something about the system so we can live life?
And it's happening even with the, what was it, in Texas, closing all these, places where people could vote, and people then were like lined up forever, miles or whatever to vote. And then the law is that even whoever is in line when the poll is closing still gets to vote, and people held their ground and stayed, and at like 1 a.m. we're still voting, right? So we can make a difference. It is shifting. Hang around with some millennials if you're struggling, because they've got it. They see the light. It's changing, and they're changing it. So follow them. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So be able to see the beauty of life. I love it. Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add? This has been great.
I would love to add, and I am learning now more about compassion and self-compassion. So that is something that I feel is very needed in our society right now, to overcome that suppression of our energy that comes from fear and blame and shame. We are too much suppressed. We are too much limited by this fear, shame, and blame, which are not productive. They're very destructive. They don't empower. They take our energy. And this connection with compassion and self-compassion, to understand that we are in this system. It's not ideal. Right. We are like prisoners at the moment. We keep perpetuating this system. However, we need compassion to get into the mode of love and co-creation and mutual learning and support. Like everyone needs support. Like most of the people struggle at some area of their life. And many people struggle in most areas of their life. So only helping each other to a degree that we can. It doesn't mean that everyone have to do a big shift or donate thousands of dollars or do something that they not able to do at the moment. But every little thing, sometimes it's just smile and saying something nice to a person who you see that they're struggling and in distress, like little acts of kindness.
Right, and noticing and verbalizing what you've noticed, the contribution, that little contribution somebody just made to your life that is actually little to them but was huge to you. We can be so touched by the positive words of others. It's amazing. And so letting each other know that, hey, you really touched me today, you know, or vice versa too, you know. So yeah, I love it.
Absolutely.
Thank
And
you
include ourselves there as well. We need compassion.
Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. Yeah. The mirror work, right? And giving yourself a nice hug while you're at it, even if you're crying. So I love it. Thanks again, Tetyana. So wonderful to talk with you.
Thank you, Linda.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.